Day for Colorado consumers, workers, and farmers.
The fight over what had been the largest grocery chain merger, the idea of it in the U.S. history, is now over. Albertsons called off the deal today and filed suit against Kroger. The Safeway owner accused the King Soopers owner of repeatedly refusing to divest assets that were necessary for antitrust approval.
Jack Buffington from the Daniels College of Business at DU is here now, and thank you for being here because we do want to dissect this. It kind of is complicated when you break it down. This has been a long, drawn-out fight. It feels like we've been talking about it for 2 years straight, but I'm curious, from your perspective, did you ever think this had a chance of actually happening?
I didn't think it had a chance of happening because of the impact to the consumers. And if you think about the impact in Colorado, King Soopers is about 40% of the market, and if this merger went through, the combined company would be over 50%. So that would have definitely had an impact on consumers.
Yeah. Well, when we talked about it, and there was a lot of discussion about why this would be terrible for consumers, because prices would go way up and things like that. You didn't necessarily confirm that, did they? I mean, did they prove that that would happen?
Yeah, one thing that maybe to take a step back on is that these two companies are much smaller than their largest national competitor, which is Walmart. So they really need to combine to be able to compete from a scale standpoint. Now, if the merger went through, what would have happened? It could have been higher prices, it could have been store shutdowns, it could have been fewer product offerings, or it could be some combination of them in order to be able to compete against a big player like Walmart.
And Walmart is the biggie.
In the United States,
yeah, in the United, it's not like Costco, Sam's, things like that. They really, even though we think of them as so big, it's Walmart that offers the most volume.
And what's really interesting, in the United States, they're the big player, 25%, but in Colorado, it's different. So you could see how the impact of this merger would have had a greater impact on a state like Colorado.
Okay.
Well, I'm curious, now that it's failed, and maybe this is just wishful thinking, but could this have a positive impact on consumers? Maybe lower prices? Or it might just...
I don't think it would have. And in fact, there's a potential fallout that if these companies can't compete against the largest player, if they went out of business, it would create greater concentration. So this market in the supply chain of concentrated manufacturers and concentrated retailers, it's a real challenge from a consumer standpoint. So it's really good that this merger didn't go through to give consumers and workers a chance.
And when you talk about that, we've heard a lot from the union as well. They were concerned and discussed that and the jobs and what it meant for them, but also the legal fees for these companies. I can't begin to imagine.
Right. And so one thing to understand, the largest player is non-union, and these two companies are union. So this is a win for the unions. And if you think about it from like you mentioned, these companies, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe close to $1 billion trying to get this to go through. And so now that the merger isn't going to go through because of these injunctions in Oregon and Washington, now you're going to see them trying to recoup their fees against each other. So it really is a difficult situation for these players, but a win for consumers.
Yeah. Well, the fighting doesn't end then.
It doesn't.
I know. Well, and will Albertsons continue on? I don't know who else is out there to merge with, but you think they try to find somebody else to keep this going?
They can, but the problem is that these two companies were probably the biggest that could have came together that could have fought a competitive battle against the Walmart. So they can find some other niche player, but it's not going to make a difference from an overall nationwide standpoint.
When you talk about mergers in general, that we see these things happen with big companies. You talked about Coors, right?
Right.
I mean, this happens all the time. We're going to see others like this down the road.
Right, especially as the economy changes. You know, the grocery industry has changed from a traditional grocery store to an e-commerce. And so you see a player like Walmart Amazon get involved in buying Whole Foods, but selling more groceries through their online retailer. These things continue to change and the supply chain continues to change. And so these companies have to find a way to compete.
Yeah. You think what happens with malls. Malls changed. Everybody bought everything online, and grocery, so many people just don't go to the grocery store anymore.
Yeah, and you know, and in some ways it's more expensive to buy things online, but there's the convenience, and so there's a lot of innovation that these companies like Albertsons and Kroger, they need to invest capital in order to be able to do it, which is very expensive. So the easiest way to try to compete is mergers. And so when this fails, I got to say that this could be a really big moment in American retail. And we'll have to see how this is going to change things in the future. But it will have some sort of implications that we'll see to future company competition.
Yeah, it's all very interesting.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Thanks so much. We really appreciate it. That was kind of what I needed. Jack Buffington, thanks so much.
Thank you.